Paltrocast.
Aside from talking to me, Jake, how's your day going so far?
Oh no, everything's great. Yeah, everything's good.
I'm glad to
Yeah,
hear that. Well,
yeah. How about yourself?
nonstop but good here in New York. Are you dialing in from Hawaii?
Yes, I am. Yeah, so I'm out here. Yeah, just my kids just went to school, and so we're all good. Got a nice
Oh,
quiet house.
I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions about Grateful, but let me give you a little rundown first. I
Okay.
first learned about you early 2000s. I was just taking a vacation to Japan and watching TV and saw you nonstop on television. Went, who is this guy? And then I was in Japan a year or two later after that. You're on TV again. Now, was Japan the first success that you kind of experienced?
Yeah, that was kind of my big break as a solo artist. Prior to that, I was only performing here in Hawaii, and I was playing in different bands. I had a band called Pure Heart and a band called Couple. And then, but then when I went, and that was back in 1996. Yeah, from 96 to 99. And then in 2000 was when I got my first record deal as a solo artist. And it was actually in Japan. It was Sony Music Japan who gave me the opportunity and signed with them. And it was the best decision I ever made.
Right. So that's how I first found you. And here we are 20 something years later. Grateful is the new record. Did you know that you wanted to make a double album when you started making a new record?
No, not at all. I mean, it was just, but growing up in Hawaii, there's so many artists, Hawaii-based artists that just inspired me. And we have a Japanese phrase. It's "okage sama de," which means "I am what I am because of you." And that's really what this collaborations project was. Just it was just a tribute, to all these artists that I grew up listening to. A lot of them are not with us anymore, but the ones on this record, most of them are just ones that I've been listening to since I was a kid, and they kind of mentored me.
Mhm.
Um yeah, and then there's a lot of other younger artists on here too, and they're like the next generation of songwriters and musicians and people that I truly admire. And it was just really an honor to collaborate with each and every artist on this record.
The American version that I have has
Mhm.
22 tracks on it. I assume the Japanese version gets another three or four bonus tracks or a third disc.
Yeah, there's an extra bonus track on that one, and that one actually gets released today. So yeah, it's being released today, just a couple days earlier. But yeah, but it's always that's one of the reasons I love buying CDs in Japan is because you always get those couple extra bonus tracks.
Yeah, the new Van Halen box set that's coming out. I think the last disc of rarities are all basically Japanese bonus tracks on it. So they had to go
Oh,
somewhere.
oh man, yeah. Well, I'll be picking that up.
But I'm very curious about you. What was your first instrument? Did you start on piano or guitar?
No, it was ukulele. Yeah, so my
Really?
my mom, yeah, I was born and raised, in Honolulu, and the ukulele is such a big part of the culture here in Hawaii. I mean, everyone plays it. We learned it in school. Um, and yeah, so that was my first instrument. When I was 4 years old, my mom sat me down because she played, so she taught me a few chords, and I was hooked. Just loved it. And it's funny because now I get to pass the joy of that instrument down to my kids, the joy of playing that instrument. And it's a wonderful instrument, especially I say for people who um feel like they can't play an instrument, or they feel like they don't have any musical talent, because it really is a simple instrument to learn. You get that instant gratification because immediately you can play basic chords and play simple songs, and it's fun and it doesn't hurt.
Well, being a remedial guitar player, I know that some of the chords are the same from the ukulele guitar. I think the A chord on the guitar is the G chord or the D chord on the ukulele. Did that that lead you to play other instruments or pick up other instruments as well? Because I'm surprised that you're familiar with intervals and music theory and all that, primarily being a ukulele player.
Yeah, I can't play any other instruments. I tried, but I just never had the passion, to do it. But I always loved the ukulele because it was small enough where I could take it everywhere with me. Even when I would catch the bus to school or wherever, I could just sit in the back of the bus and I would just practice. In Japan, it's funny because a lot of times when I first started going to Japan, you take the either the subway or the cab, the taxi, everywhere.
Hmm.
And so in the subway, in the trains, you can't play your ukulele, but in the taxi cab, you can sit in the back and you can just strum away and play. And especially in Tokyo and Osaka, there's so much traffic. So sometimes you're sitting in that taxi cab for a long time, so I would just sit there and play and write songs. And I remember there was this one time, I basically played the whole ride. And when I got to our destination, um, I was going to pay, right, the taxi cab driver, and he looked at me, he goes, "Oh no," and he just said, "Oh, thank you for your music." So I got a free ride, that was pretty cool.
Wow. When I go down the list of native Hawaiians who play ukulele, who are primarily famous in Japan first before conquering the world, there's you and there's Konishiki.
Oh yeah, Konishiki
Did
was
you ever play ukulele alongside him?
I did. We actually did a Japanese TV show together way back in the day. Yeah, he's a legend, he was a very famous sumo wrestler, world champion sumo wrestler from Hawaii. And but yeah, just an amazing guy, a great musician. Of course, shredded the ukulele. He also, had a beautiful voice. And the thing that I love so much about Konishiki was, he had such a heart for the community and especially
Yes.
for the kids. He does so much when it comes to just inspiring the kids to find their passion and to just lead a good life and make good decisions. Yeah, he was he just commands so much respect from the community. And it was just awesome to get to know him and to share some chords with him.
Well, Grateful again is the new record. Upcoming tour dates, are you playing a lot from Grateful or just two or three songs? Any idea?
Yeah, well, we'll be doing I wish I could take all those artists on the road with me. Yeah, but later on in the year, Connor Johnson, who
I'll be there.
yep, his song I'll Be There, he'll be coming out on the road with me and singing a few songs from the new record. And yeah, he's such a talented singer songwriter, and I really love working with him. So it's going to be a real treat to take him out on the road. Last year, Justin Kavika Young, who's also on this record, his song "Grateful" actually became the title track, for the record because it just had that clear message, of what the whole vibe of this record was. Being in the moment and just being grateful for the things that you have, and that's the path to true happiness. But yeah, so last year Justin came out on the road with us. He couldn't tour with us this year. He's on the road with Brett Young right now,
Mhm.
and but Connor Johnson's going to be out with us, and we're looking forward to it.
A lot of artists, when they're on the road, have to do these really long sound checks to make sure all the gear works. In your case, is there a lot of sound checking needed for you? Because you're using an instrument that pretty much fits in your lap, could fit in a backpack, etc.
Yeah, sound checks are usually pretty quick for us. We have Brett Lynn, who's our production manager. He gets the room dialed in so nicely. So I mean, he spends a lot of time, because he tunes the room and sets up the PA and makes sure everything's working. And so by the time we come out, everything's like already tuned and perfect. And so we just got to sit up there and play a few chords and maybe run through a couple of songs so he can make some quick adjustments. But we've been very fortunate. We have a really good team in place. And so I'm grateful for all of them, because they're the ones that make it happen every night, the crew.
Did you say grateful because that's the name of your new record? Plug, plug.
Oh, no, no. I mean that it's really it's one of my favorite words. I have this I used to give these talks, over at the schools and all that, and the three key words that I would always talk to them about was to be humble, grateful, and kind. And I would take I would use one of those wooden back scratchers,
Hmm.
as a symbol for those three things. And because when you look at the back scratcher, it's like a wooden hand, right, with the fingers. So I would tell them, when you look at the fingers curled forward, it kind of looks like people bowing, right? And when you're bowing, you're showing your humility and respect. So, I always tell them to remember to be, humble. And then when you look at the handle of the back scratcher, it's like, when you look at the handle, to me it represents like the lineage, or like the all the generations that came, before you, and made
Hmm.
sacrifices so that you could extend your reach, so your reach could be even further. And so that's the part where I always tell them, so always be grateful for all those people who came before you and made those sacrifices. And then the last thing is, when you hold the back scratcher out in front of you, it looks like a hand, like extending a hand. And so to me, you're extending your hand as to show kindness, and to support your community, and to do good things for other people. So the back scratcher, yeah, kind of was a fun way to just kind of remind, the kids to be humble, grateful, and kind. And yeah, so that was so yeah, so grateful is one of my favorite words, man. I use it all the time.
And then stylistically, you're known to be able to play all sorts of genres. Very few people can do jazz and classical, and I'm saying you could do both, but also
Wow.
bluegrass, etc. Were you ever into harder rock or metal?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, all like I used to listen to a lot of the Iron Maiden stuff. I just loved all the
Oh,
double harmony lead stuff, and
yeah.
like a lot of rock guitarists really inspired me. I mean, Jeff Beck was clearly one of my heroes. But I used to listen to all like the old Paul Gilbert stuff with Racer
Oh,
X, Sean Lane and all those guys, and of course Yngwie Malmsteen, Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, I mean all the shredders, and yeah, it's just amazing. I mean, I've just always loved, especially like I remember the first time I heard Yngwie Malmsteen, and hearing him play all of that harmonic minor runs and all that. It reminded me of a lot of the Paganini
yeah.
pieces, that I would hear, like all those arpeggiations and, I don't know if arpeggiations, I don't know if that's a if that's a
If it's
word, but
not,
all those,
trademark it right now and buy
yeah,
it. Arpeggiations.
but all those arpeggios, that
Yeah.
that he would just fly across. I mean, just the fretboard was just ridiculous, and he would do it while he's running around on stage. It was just crazy, the his precision and dexterity, while he's just running back and forth, it's like nothing, so he could do all that stuff in his sleep. But yeah, so I grew up listening to a lot of that music, and yeah, it was just very inspiring. I mean, I could never do those like crazy sweeps like they could all do, but it was definitely inspiring.
Were you ever at any point trying to put your uke through distorted amps or anything like that?
Oh yeah, I still do that, today in our live shows. I mean, you know,
Oh,
uh, yeah, we use but instead of I don't carry around amplifiers anymore, just because it's, especially with the tube stuff, you
you
gotta,
use the pods? Is that what they're called? The
well,
pods
so
are
yeah, so I use different amp simulators, to get, to dial in the tone that I want. Um and yeah, and various, I try to stay away from I mean, there's a lot of really great digital stuff, and yeah, but I remember when the pod first came out, the all the amp modulations. I mean, that was so cool, man. You could get some really epic sounds, and then I would just put a like a distortion pedal, or like, whatever I wanted to use, in front of that. And the cool thing, well, not the cool thing was, but in the beginning, you'd get so much feedback, on your instrument, especially with an ukulele. You have nylon strings, you have a piezo pickup, and you got this hollow body. I mean, that's three X's right there, right? You don't want when you're trying to overdrive your instrument. So what I would do is I would take old T-shirts and I would stuff the body of the ukulele, and then that would help to form, a little bit of support under the bridge, and it kind of made it like, kind of almost simulated, almost like a solid body instrument, I guess in a way.
Wow.
But yeah, and then lowering the action a lot more, getting it closer to the fingerboard, that helped with getting rid of a lot of the unwanted feedback. But yeah, but all that stuff, man, it was just constantly experimenting and trying to find, new ways to, just to get different sounds, different tones. I think when you can manipulate the voice of your instrument, right, it makes you play different. It makes you phrase things a little bit differently. In fact, there's a song that I recorded in Nashville, maybe like 6 years ago, 6, 7 years ago. It's called Kilauea, Kilauea, and it was inspired by the volcano, here on Hawaii Island, when Kilauea was erupting. But
Mhm.
but that was kind of yeah. I plugged my uke through an old Marshall and just cranked it, and yeah, that's basically what that song was. And it was just kind of trying to, I mean, I guess at the time I wasn't really thinking about it too much, but I just loved. I remember the first time I heard Eruption by Eddie Van Halen, and I was just like, what in the world is he doing? I couldn't even fathom what was going on. And then I remember watching some videos of him, playing it. It was it just blew my mind, all the sounds that he was getting out of that instrument. So that's what that song Kilauea was. It was kind of more about like just trying to get like these different sounds that you wouldn't expect, to hear on the ukulele. So if you listen to that song, it's basically just one ukulele, from beginning to end.
Oh, okay. Well, one last question before I let you go. And it's sort of related to what we were just talking about. And again, not your great new double album that we've said the name of many times. Great. Uh, Knowing that you do have hard rock and shredder influences to you, have you ever thought about doing a harder rock album, maybe even under an alias? Because McCartney did his EDM album stuff
Oh
on
yeah.
Fireman. U2 had a secret album. A lot of our favorite bands ever had secret album alias kind of names, knowing, hey, this is not what my normal fan base is looking for. So let's do something for fun under. Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, I mean, I probably wouldn't do it under an alias though. I would just wanna do it. I mean, it would just be, I think just a lot of fun to do something like that. And I think that's kind of well, the last couple albums that I did, they're pretty what do you call there? Yeah, I mean there's a certain
Diverse,
yeah.
or is that the
Well,
word?
oh, sorry about that.
No
Yeah,
problem.
I think like these last couple albums I did, there's a little bit of a vibe. They were kind of collaborative records. But prior to that, like some of my other albums, it was kind of like all over the map. Like you kind of hear, like even the stuff I did like early on. Like I remember my first album back in 2001. I had an album called Toastmaker's Revenge, and
I
that was
heard
kind
that
of
one.
like, have you heard that one?
I have not heard
Oh
that one.
yeah.
I've got some
So
homework to do.
that was yeah, so that was kind of like that was very Iron Maiden inspired, so you have the distorted ukulele with the double lead and some of the right hand tapping stuff on there. And then just some like power chord strumming stuff. So yeah, so but it was funny because, when people would back then when people would listen to that stuff, everyone would ask me, "Oh, who'd you get to play electric guitar on that album?" I'll tell them, "No, that was actually the ukulele."
Yeah.
And they're like, "No, that was not the ukulele. No, I'm talking about the guitar part." I'm like, "No, no, it wasn't ukulele." And no, nobody believes me. So
I believe you, and I'm looking forward to listening to that album later today. But
oh,
hope to see you live in New York in the near future. I think you were just at Sony Hall in New York, or is that coming up?
yeah. Yeah, no, we were in Sony Hall recently. Love performing there, and yeah, we just always love coming to New York. That was really the place that kind of expedited my career. My touring career, because it was over in Central Park. There was a video of me playing George Harrison's "While My Guitar Gently Weeps" that went viral. Back in 2005, and that's really what started all of this, and I remember, back then, when that video went viral, one of the first bands that really took me out on the road was Jimmy Buffett, and he kind of took me under his wing, for a long time. I toured with him, for about 4 or 5 years. I was a coral reefer, with them, and so it was really sad, to hear the news the other day, but but yeah, just
But you're going to keep that
incredible.
legacy alive. So that's the bright side to it.
Mm, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think we'll all do our best to carry forward all the lessons that he taught us.
Well said. Well, Jake, thank you for the many years of great music. Looking forward to the new music. Looking forward to the next gig in this area. But keep up all the greatness in the meantime, man.
Thank you so much, and thank you for rescheduling and being so flexible. Appreciate it, and yeah, appreciate the support with this new album as well.
Paltrocast.